Right then, this is a road test video for one of my cars. This is a Honda Accord. It's a 2.2 Type R, registered T284BRM. Mileage on this particular car is just 46,908 miles from new. Normally speaking, the reason I do these videos is to show the cars in operation, to feedback on any issues there might be with them prior to people coming to see us. This one's rather different because it's an opportunity for me to get this car out after sort of winter's hibernation. Also to go through those things that I do on regular videos, but also to give my feedback on this particular car and this type of car. Just a quick background, if I may. When the Accord Type R was out, brand new at Honda, I actually used to work for Bristol Honda at the dealership. So I was selling these cars when they were new. I had a couple as my own personal demonstrators. Sold a couple to a couple of my personal friends who still maintain they're the best cars they ever owned. I had Integra Type Rs, S2000s, had all of them. It was the real heyday for Honda product. Wonderful product. But it's interesting to get back into the car after a while, and also to drive it after having driven sort of a lot of modern Hondas along these same roads. So I'll kind of go through it. I mean, the engine I'm going to let warm up, because obviously you should do with any VTEC engine before you start giving it any sort of big revs or anything, and especially taking into consideration it's been in storage for some time now. The fact is, when I went to start the car, I have it on trickle charge the whole time. It started absolutely instantly and sounded smooth immediately. No tappity noises, no nasty noises. It is a wonderful piece of engineering. The whole car is. Because what is immediately obvious when you jump into one of these cars, how modern the car feels, how tight, how beautifully engineered they are, but also how much better in some ways they are than lots of modern cars. You know, this is a full-on sports car that handles absolutely sensationally. And at the time when it was new, they used to say it was quite hard riding, everything. You know, it isn't. It is one of the most comfortable cars along this section of the road, which is particularly nasty and bumpy, that I will have ever driven. It's just so compliant and forgiving in its suspension. But everything about the car kind of comes together as one, which is why I still think this is one of, the cars of its generation. When you think of its competitors, of which there weren't many, to be fair, and some which have gone on quite rightly to, achieve amazing classic status. You think of, Sierra Cosworths, which again I appreciate, were a level above in terms of performance, but not in handling, not in the way they drove. And I actually worked for the Ford dealer prior to working for Honda, selling sort of Escort Cosworths and Sierra Cosworths, and I still love them, so I'm not putting them down in any way, but they feel much older to drive than these do. Much older. This just feels like it's, what did I say? It just feels like a modern car. The engine is just a peach. It clearly thrives on revs, and being a 5-speed gearbox, quite long ratios between each of them, which means obviously to keep them on boil, you've got to keep them right at the top if you want to keep it in the VTEC zone. More noticeably actually on the 2.2s than say the Integra Type R. So if you want to get it back into the VTEC, you can take it all the way around to the red line. But there's no harm in doing that, because the engine sounds absolutely fantastic in the process. Just to do the sort of the more mundane things, clutch perfect on the car, smooth, positive. Gearbox, which is another typical Type R box, wonderful to hold this good old-fashioned Type R gear knob, which is in perfect condition, by the way. But the gear change is just wonderful. It really is. It feels mechanical. It's got a wonderful quality of actuation, and it feels, as I'm driving it now, as it would have done when it was new. As I said, it's quite astonishing in all honesty. So just got a nice bit of section of road I can put the foot down. Oh, I love it, absolutely love it. It's just wonderful in the way it pulls when it gets it keen into the VTEC zone. Just wonderful. I mean, it really is. It's an astonishing piece of engineering, for that era or any other era, in all honesty, because its specific output was very high indeed, and for an engine that was as reliable as it was. There are, of course, no warning lights at all on the dashboard relating to the engine or any other part of the car, and it really is. I'll just do it again because I love it. The VTEC kicks in. Oh dear, it really is sensational. But it's just the way the whole car kind of comes together, which is why I've always loved the Accord Type R. The Integra, which I'll be doing a video of in a month's time on my personal one, my DC2, was always said to be more hardcore, and in some ways it was actually, because this one, as comfortable as actually the Integra is, this one is even more comfortable. I know the comfort isn't why you're buying the car, but it just makes driving daily or long distance absolutely easy. For me, the engine is astonishing, yeah, the gearbox is brilliant. What I think stands out more than anything else is the chassis of this vehicle. It's got some just brilliant steering. It's beautifully weighted, and it's not one of those where you get and think, oh crap, that's really good straight away, because it feels quite heavy. It feels not slow, but it's not like darting you around all over the place. The time when these are good, and I haven't, by the way, put this on a track, so don't worry, I've not done it on this one, but I have done on many others. When I worked at Honda, I was lucky to do a couple of track days and tuitions. It's at higher speeds when the car loads up, the front, the rear, get it all moving around, the steering just talks back to you. It tells you exactly what's going on, and it's unless you experience it, it's very hard to explain, because it all works perfectly. Because when you turn into a corner, you get not a huge amount of body roll, but it works all four corners of the car, the chassis, absolutely brilliantly. It really does. And it also, when you're going into corners, you can adjust the line with the car, lifting the throttle on and off, but it isn't snappy, it doesn't plough on understeer. It is scalpel sharp through the corners, and the accuracy of the car, the precision, the forgiving nature of the chassis, where anyone can get in and drive it to a decent level, and the very best can take it to amazingly high levels. It's a bit of an unsung hero and a complete Q car, which I absolutely love. I love the fact that it's rare. I love the fact that not huge amounts were bought new, and very few will be around with this kind of mileage and untouched in terms of kind of modifications on the vehicle, and all the better for it. But it's just a video to give you a step back in time into as I said, an era of Honda cars which I was proud to be part of, but also, as I say, reminder to me when I get in copious numbers of sort of Civics and CRVs and goodness knows what else on a regular basis doing my videos, and I take for granted actually how good Honda are. And I do eulogize about how good they are. I mean, they're a great company, but this, to me, it simply beggars belief that I'm talking about a car that was built in 1999, and yet it doesn't feel in any way old. I mean, it really is. And that is what engineering is all about. That's what build quality is all about. Build quality isn't about big thumpy doors that shut and big squidgy plastic bits on the dashboard. No squeaks, no rattles, perfectly built, in beautiful condition in here still. That's build quality. Build quality is how these things are assembled and how they last in the long term, and that's where the Honda as a product has always been right at the top in virtually every aspect. And in terms of four-cylinder engines, especially naturally aspirated ones, the world's best manufacturer of all of them. I mean, it really is especially in this era, no one else was producing engines that could rev to the revs that these do as reliably as these did over hundreds of thousands of miles. But you have to excuse my waffling on. It's a completely unrehearsed video. I just say it as it comes to me. I'll probably think of lots of things after I've finished the video that I should have mentioned, so I apologise for that. But I just hope it's more for those who love this car and love the product, to actually see one in operation, which has obviously become rarer and rarer over the years.